morning students. Today topic is plant morphology and taxonomy of angiosperm. In this lesson you are going to learn about the topic vegetative morphology. In last class you learned about root system and its modification. In this class you are going to learn about shoot system and its modification. So the shoot system is present above the soil. It bears stem, leaf, flowers and fruits. Functions of the stem: primary function and secondary function. Like the root system, the stem also performing primary and secondary functions. Some of the primary functions of the stem are: it provides supports and bears leaves and flowers and fruits. So the stem bears leaves, flowers and fruits. It transports water and minerals, nutrient to the other part from the root. The root system absorbs water and mineral salt from the soil. The salt, mineral salt and water which are absorbed by the root system is transported to other part of the plant through the stem, because the stem bear the water conducting element xylem. And it also transports food prepared by the leaves to other part of the plant body. So the leaves are the chief photosynthetic organ which is actively involved in the preparation of food. The food which is prepared by the leaves are transported to the other part of the plant by means of phloem, which is present in the stem part. The secondary functions of the stem. The secondary functions of the stems are food storage, perination, water storage, buoyancy, photosynthesis, protection, support. First is the storage of food material. Like the root system, some of the roots are involved in the storage of food material. Similarly, the stem also performing the food storage organ. So example for it is Solanum tuberosum, potato, colocasia and Gingiber officinalis, ginger, colocasia, Perination reproduction. Perination means the stem itself acts as a reproductive organ for the next generation. So it produces young ones. So it is called as a perinating organ or reproduction. Example: Gingiber officinalis, ginger; Curcuma longa, turmeric. Water storage. So stems contains, the sum of the stems are swollen and fleshy. Such a stem store water for future purpose. These plants lives in the xerophytic condition. So water storage organ, example Opuntia, cactus. Buoyancy. In aquatic plant, the stem itself acts as a buoyancy to float the plant freely on the water surface. Example Neptunia. And photosynthesis. Photosynthesis means the stem preparing the food. Normally the leaves are involved in the preparation of food. Here in this plant the stem is flattened and succulent, which is green in color and act as a photosynthetic organ. In this plant the leaves are reduced into smaller in size, or sometimes the leaves are modified into spines. So the leaves are unable to produce photosynthesis in this plant. Example Opuntia, Ruscus, euphorbia. Protection. In some plants the stem modified into spine or thorn-like structure in order to protect themselves from the grazing of animal. So protection, example is citrus. In citrus plant the stem contains the thorns. Bougainvillea and acacia. In this plant the stems contain thorns or spines which act as which protect the plant from the grazing of animals, cattle. Support. Some of the stem also used for support. Example Passiflora, Victus, Cissus quadrangularis, Spirendicis quadrangularis. Buds. Here the buds means a developing shoot system. Bud is a developing shoot system. The buds are the growing point surrounded by protective scaly leaves. It is surrounded by a protective scaly leaves. The bud primordia matures into a bud. Bud means a developing shoot. They have compressed axis. The bud contains compressed nodes and internodes. They have compressed axis in which the internodes are not elongated, and the young leaves are closed and the crowded. The young leaves are nearly present and they are crowded in appearance. When this bud develops, the internode elongate and the leaves spread out. Buds have architecture identical to the original shoot and develops into a lateral branches or may terminate by developing into a flower or a inflorescence. Sometimes the bud is developed into a lateral branches, or sometimes it terminates in a flower, it ends in a flower like a rose plant. Based on their origin, buds are classified into different type. One is the terminal or apical bud. Terminal means the bud which is present in the tip region, that is apical region. Terminal or apical bud. Lateral or axillary or axial bud. The bud which is developed in the side of the branch, it is called as a lateral or axillary or axial bud. Based on functioning of the buds, they are classified into two types. One is the vegetative bud, another one is the flower bud or reproductive bud. Terminal or apical bud. This bud are present at the apex of the main stem and at the tips of the branches. The terminal buds are present in the apex of the main stem, or it is maybe present in the tips of the branches. Lateral bud or axillary bud. This buds occurs in the axial of the leaf, the side region, and develop into a branch or flower. Sometimes it may be developed into a branch or it ends in a flowers like a shoe flower. So in shoe flower it ends with a flower. Extra axillary bud. In extra axillary buds, these buds are formed at nodes but outside the axial of the leaf as in Solanum americanum. So extra axillary bud, these buds are formed at the nodes where they are present at the node but outside the axial of the, they are seen outside the axial of the leaf. Axial of the leaf means it is the distance between the stem and the leaf petiole is called as a base, leaf base is called as the axial. So if the bud is developed outside the axial region of the leaf means it is called as a extra axillary bud. Accessory bud, an extra bud on either side or above the axillary bud. Sometimes the extra bud which is developed on both the side of the axillary bud is called as a extra axillary bud. They are seen in citrus and duranta. Adventitious buds. The buds arises at any part other than the stem are known as adventitious buds. They are radical buds, foliar buds. The radical buds, these buds are arises from the lateral roots which grows into a plantlet. Example, Coffea arabica and Agil marmolosus. Foliar buds that grows on the leaves from veins or from margin of the leaves. It may be grows on the veins. What is the vein? The vein is present in the leaf, which is the veins are present in the leaf region. It gives a structure to the leaves. So if the buds grows on the leaf from the veins or from margin of the leaves are called as a foliar leaves. Example, Bignonia, elephant ear plant and Bryophyllum, sprout leaf plant. Kaolin buds arises directly from the stem, either from the cut pronged end. Kaolin buds arises directly from the stem, either from the cut region or pronged end or from branches. Adventitious buds function as propagule. Propagule means it is involved in the formation of young plants which are produced on the stem as tubers. Example, Dioscorea agave. Bulbils. The bulbils or specialized bud are modified and enlarged bud meant for propagation. Propagation means it produces young ones. When bulbils detached from the parent plant, it falls down from the parent plant onto the ground. They germinate into a new plant and serves as a means of vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation means the stem or a root or the leaves are involved in the production of new individual, means it is called as a vegetative propagation. Example, agave and allium proliferum. The next, types of stems. Majority of the angiosperm possess upright vertical growing erect stem. Erect means they can stand straight. They may be many types. Excurrent stem. The main axis shows continuous growth. The main axis is continuous growth and the lateral branches gradually become shorter towards the apex. Towards the tip region, the lateral branches are shorter. It gives appearance like a cone. So it gives a cone-like appearance to the tree. So example is Palialkia langifolia, Netalingamaram, Casuarina, Saukamaram. So in this plant, the main axis is continuously to grow and the lateral branches gradually become shorter towards the apex. It gives like a cone-like appearance. So the example is a Polyalthia, Longifolia and Casuarina. Decurrent stem. The growth of lateral branch is more vigorous. The lateral branch is more vigorous than that of the main axis. The tree has a round or spreading appearance. The tree is a round shaped or spreading appearance. Example, Mangifera indica, mango, Azadirachta indica, neem plant, Tamarindus indicus, Tamarindus plant, Aigil marmoratus, Bilvum. So this plant shows a decurrent type of a stem. The next is a caducus. It is unbranched. The stem, the main stem is a unbranched snout cylindrical stem marked with the scars of fallen leaves. The presence of leaves shows a scar shaped. So example for this stem is Cocos nucifera, coconut, Boracious falciformis and Arakia ketachu pakamaram, Boracious panaimaram. So these are the some of the examples for a caducus stem. The next type of a stem is a clump. In clump, the erect stem with the distinct nodes. The nodes are clearly visible. Nodes is a region where the leaf is attached and usually hollow internodes. So in between the nodes, the two successive nodes, distance between the two successive nodes is called as internodes. The internodes are hollow and clasped by a leaf sheath. So in monocots, the leaf base is called as leaf sheath because it is widely expanded and wing-like. So it is called as a leafy sheath. So the clump possesses a erect stem with the distinct nodes and usually hollow internodes clasped by leaf sheath. Example, majority of grasses shows clump type bamboo. The next, modification of stem. So the stem modification. So the stem modification is classified into three categories. One is aerial modification. Aerial means above the soil. The modification is thrown above the soil is called as the aerial modification. Subaerial means half of the stem is modified. Half of the stem is present in the above the soil and half of the stem is present below. That is called as a subaerial modification. Underground modification. The modification is shown in the underground region. Seen in the underground region is called as a underground modification. Aerial modification, subaerial modification and underground modification. The aerial modification is again classified into different categories such as creepers, trailers, climbers, Cladode and thorns. Subaerial modifications are classified into runner, stolen, sucker and offset. Underground modifications are pulp, corn, rhizome, tubers. These modifications seen under the underground region. Trailers, that is the aerial modification. Trailers are again classified into procumbent, decumbent and diffuse. The climbers are modified into root climbers, stem climbers, tendril climbers, hook climbers, lianas, and thorn climbers. These are some of the stem modification. So the stem modification is classified into different categories. Modification of stem, aerial modification. So that is, the aerial stems are present above the soil. First one is the creepers. These are the plants growing closer, that is horizontally to the ground, and produces roots at each nodes. It produces roots at each nodes, that is adventitious roots are seen in this creepers. Creepers, example Cynodon dactylon centella. Cynodon dactylon, Arugambal centella, mint plant. The next is the trailers. The trailers are also called as a struggler because they are having weak stem. The trailers are having a weak stem, so they are called as a strugglers. It's again classified into prostate, decumbent, and diffuse. The trailers are weak stems that spread over the surface of the ground. They are spread over the surface of the ground without rooting at nodes. The climbers are spread on the ground, but they have no adventitious root on each nodes. But the trailers are also spread over the surface of the ground, but they are not having rooting on its nodes. So they are spread over the ground. They are three types: prostrate, decumbent, and diffuse. Prostrate are also called as procumbent, a stem that grows flat on the ground. It grows flat on the ground like a mat. Example, Indigofera prostrata, Auri. Decumbent, a stem that grows flat but becomes erect during reproductive stage. At the time of reproduction, at the time of flowering, the stem becomes erect and produces the inflorescence above the soil. The stem that grows flat but becomes erect during reproductive stage. Example, Tridax. Diffuse, a trailing stem with the spreading branches. The branches are spreading. Example, Borhevia diffusa. The next type is climbers. The climbers, these plants have long weak stem and produce a special organ for attachment for climbing over a support. It crawl over the support, a nearby tree or fence. Climbing helps to display the leaves towards the sunlight and to position the flowers for effective pollination. They are root climber, stem climber, hook climber, thorn climbers, and lianas. First one is the root climbers. The plants climbing with the help of adventitious roots. Sometimes the adventitious roots are act as a climbing organ. So this adventitious roots are arises at each nodes as a species of piper beetle, methylene, Piper nigrum, pothos. In these plants, there is a root climber as arises. These climbers are involved uh, in the climbing of the nearby trees or nearby fences, nearby support. The stem climbers, twiners, this climbers lack specialized, there is no any specialized structure for climbing. The stem itself coil around, the stem itself coil around the support. Example, Ipomia clitoria. Stem climbers may coil around the support either in a clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. Clockwise coiling climbers are called as dextron. The climber which crawl around the nearby support in a clockwise direction means it is called as a dextron. If it is crawl on the or coiling on the nearby support by means in a anti-clockwise direction means it is called as a sinistros. Example, Dioscorea bulbifera. The next is the lianas. The lianas are woody perennials. They are woody perennials climbers. Perennial means it used for many years. Every year it produces flowers and fruits. Found in tropical forest are lianas. They twine themselves around tall trees to get light. So they are mostly coil around the tall trees to get light. Example, Hyptage, Bengaliensis, Boheminia are some of the example for a lianas. Tendril climbers. The tendrils are spring-like, that is coiling structure, thread-like coiling structure, which helps the plant in climbing the nearby support. The tendrils may be modification of the stem, as in Victus and Cissus quadrangularis pirandae. Inflorescence, sometimes the inflorescence axis. Inflorescence means a bunch of flower with a common stalk. It may also modified into a spring tendril-like structure, antigonon. The leaf also modified into a tendril-like structure. Example, Latharas patanichedi. Sometimes the leaflet is also modified into tendril and Pisum sativum. It is also pea plant, garden pea plant. Petiole. The leaf stalk is also modified into a tendril-like structure, Clematitis. Leaf tip region is modified into a tendril-like structure, Gloriosa superba. Stipules are sometimes modified into tendril-like structure, Similis. In pitcher plant, that is Nepenthes, the midrib of the leaf often coiled around a support like a tendril and holds the pitcher in a vertical position. So in the Nepenthes plant, that is Insectivorous plant, the midrib of the leaf often coil around a support like a tendril and hold the pitcher in a vertical position. The next is a phylloclad. In phylloclad, it is a aerial modification. It is green flattened stem. The stem is green flattened. Cylindrical or angled structure. It is cylindrical or angled structure or angled stem or branch of unlimited growth. They are unlimited growth. It is consisting of series of nodes and internodes at long or short internode. Sometimes it may be longer internode or shorter internode. The phylloclad is a characteristic adaptation of a xerophytes. What are called xerophytes? The xerophytes are the plants which lives in the desert. The plants which lives in the desert conditions are called as a xerophytes. The phylloclad is a characteristic adaptation of a xerophytes, where the leaves often fall off earlier. Sometimes the leaves fall in earlier stage, and the leaves are modified into spines in cactus, or the leaves are scaly like to reduce transpiration. In order to avoid transpiration means the loss of water in the form of water vapor through the stomata is called as a transpiration. Because these plants lives in the desert condition, to avoid excess of water from the plant, the leaves are reduced into smaller in size, or it may be modified into a spine-like structure. The phylloclad takes over all the function of the leaves, that is the stem region performing the function of the leaves, particularly photosynthesis. The phylloclad is also called as a cladophil. The phylloclad is also called as a cladophil. Phyllo means the leaf, the stem performing the function of the leaf, so it is called as a phylloclad. Example, Opentia, Phyllocatus, Casuarina, Euphorbia thurcalli and Euphorbia antiquarum are some of the example for the phylloclad. The phylloclad is also an important 3-mark question. So in phylloclad, example, the cactus plant, the stem is performing the function of the leaf. The stem is flattened green and performing photosynthesis. The leaves are reduced into smaller in size, or sometimes it may be modified into a spine-like structure to avoid transpiration. The next topic is cladode. The cladode is a flattened cylindrical. The cladode is a flattened or cylindrical stem similar to phylloclad. They look like a phylloclad, but with 1 or 2 internodes. In cladode, there is a 1 or 2 internode only present. They are very smaller. It contains very smaller stems. So their stem nature is evident by the fact that they bear buds, scales and flowers. It bears buds, scale and flowers. Example, asparagus, ruscus. The next, thorns. The thorn is a woody and sharp pointed. Thorns are the woody and sharp pointed modified stem. The thorns are modified stems. They are pointed. Either the axillary bud or terminal bud. Axillary bud, the bud present in the axial position, or the bud is present in the tip get modified into a thorns. Example, citrus and Atlantica axillary bud is modified into a thorn. The next type of modification is